Deep within the colossal heart of an Andromedan factory, where the very concept of time seemed to warp and fold upon itself, lay the labyrinth of breathing machines. Here, metal behemoths inhaled and exhaled with the slow, deliberate rhythm of sleeping giants, their internal mechanisms a symphony of synchronized sighs and groans. This was no mere industrial complex. It was an organism, a pulsating entity sustained by the ritualistic existence of its alien human inhabitants, beings whose mechanical lungs protruded through the fragile architecture of crystal ribcages. Steam, thick and luminescent, erupted rhythmically from vents, painting the endless corridors with a perpetually glowing fog. Each passage was a living artery, constantly shifting as massive gears rearranged themselves with a soft, grinding murmur. The air thrummed with the ancient hymns whispered by the inhabitants into copper funnels, their voices the very breath that sustained the factory's profound, endless slumber. At the epicenter of this living liturgy stood the copper cantor. Their robed form was an anchor in the shifting maze, a brass mask shaped like a bellows obscuring their face. From behind that mask, a voice of incredible resonance boomed, not through mere vocal cords, but amplified by pipes that coiled into the very walls, becoming part of the labyrinth's circulatory system. Hark! The breath of ages, the sigh of creation, the cantor intoned, and with each word, distant vents across the entire factory sighed in harmonic response, a profound exhalation that vibrated through the crystalline foundations. Their hymns were the cadence of the factory's heart, a rhythmic call and answer that kept the great engines beating. As the cantor's voice echoed, drawing the very air into sacred patterns, Vaithra the ribcage keeper meticulously moved through a section of the labyrinth known as the veins of iron. Her exposed crystal ribs, a lattice of glowing sapphire, pulsed faintly with an inner light that mirrored the factory's own slow thrum. In her hands, a delicate, ornate oil can, filled not with synthetic lubricant, but with her own shimmering, crimson blood. With each focused drop, she anointed the colossal, interlocking gears that spanned the corridor, her breath synchronizing perfectly with the labyrinth's deep, almost imperceptible pulse. A shiver of energy passed through the oiled mechanism, a quiet ascent as old as the factory itself. Vaithra's role was to ensure the smooth, silken operation of every cog, every spring, every ancient spindle, her life force literally flowing into the machine's continued existence. The cantor's hymn shifted, soaring to a higher pitch, and a vast section of the corridor ahead of Vaithra groaned as it began to reconfigure. Walls rippled, floors lifted, and new passages unfurled like blossoming petals of steel. This was the cue for the twin bellows. Conjoined at the shoulder, their mechanical lungs were fused into a single, complex apparatus that exhaled in opposing rhythms. One a short, sharp burst, the other a long, drawn-out sigh. They moved with an unsettling grace, their bare feet dusting the newly formed floor with fine ash. With each step, they pressed their saws into the fresh metal, leaving behind intricate symbols that glowed briefly before vanishing as the gears beneath them completed their reorientation. These were not mere footprints, but navigational markers, a silent language spoken to the labyrinth itself, guiding others through pathways that would cease to exist moments later. In a secluded alcove, where the steam converged to form a perpetually swirling vortex, Auric the steam prophet stood motionless. His face was hidden behind fogged glass, the condensation a mirror to the factory's own internal mists. He claimed to hear the factory's dreams, not in words, but in the specific dances of the steam, the subtle variations in its temperature and scent. Today's dream was urgent. He extended a hand, and a heated copper plate materialized from a hidden slot, warm against his cloaked fingers. With a stylus made of solidified steam, he began to etch. The symbols were fluid, abstract, yet profound, a vision of deep currents shifting, a promise of continued breath. As soon as the last line was drawn, the copper began to corrode, the prophecy dissolving into verdigris and dust, its message absorbed by the very air it had described, legible only for this fleeting moment. Elsewhere, in the narrow, winding service ducts that snaked beneath the primary corridors, a cluster of small, child-sized beings moved with an ethereal purpose. These were the funnel choir. Their mouths, replaced by polished copper funnels, were perpetually open, humming soft, resonant tones. These were not songs of joy or sorrow, but pure, unadulterated air, meticulously fed into smaller, auxiliary breathing machines. Their hums were the lullabies of the factory, the gentle, constant susurrus that kept the deepest, most forgotten cogs turning. They were the lungs of the hidden spaces, their collective breath a constant, vital offering. But even in this meticulously synchronized ballet, discord could arise. A deep, guttural shudder ripped through a distant section of the labyrinth, a gear catching, a rhythm faltering. The copper cantor's hymn wavered, a moment of stark vulnerability. Vaithra paused, her hand hovering, her crystal ribs dimming slightly. The twin bellows halted, their opposing breaths momentarily unifying in a gasp. Oryx's fogged glass clouded further, signaling distress. From the deepest, most stable core of the factory emerged the silent Gearite. Tall, cloaked, and utterly devoid of visible lungs, their presence commanded a profound stillness. In their grasp was a winding key, impossibly large and radiating a faint, almost imperceptible hum of its own. Without a word, for they had no voice, they moved towards the source of the disruption. Steam parted for them. Gears seemed to pause in deference. Reaching the snagged mechanism, the Gearite raised the key. With a deliberate, agonizing twist, they halted that entire section of the labyrinth. The colossal gears froze, the steam vents there fell silent, and an oppressive, profound quiet descended. The cost was immediate and visible. A faint, ethereal glow that had always emanated from the Gearite's cloaked form dimmed, leaving them even more profoundly, chillingly silent, their very essence momentarily muted to restore balance. The silence was a void, a stark absence that threatened to unravel the factory's slumber. But it was fleeting. As the halted section resumed its motion with a gentle, restored thrum, the funnel choir's hum swelled, filling the space where the Gearite's glow had been. The copper cantor's voice returned, stronger, more resolute, guiding the labyrinth back to its sacred rhythm. Vaithra's blood oil flowed freely once more, her ribs glowing with renewed vigor. The twin bellows resumed their intricate dance, their vanishing symbols a testament to the ever-changing, ever-enduring path. Oryx, his prophecy now fully dissolved, turned back to the steam, ready to interpret the next dream. The labyrinth of breathing machines exhaled, a collective sigh of relief and continued existence. The factory's endless slumber was sustained, preserved by the unwavering devotion of its alien human inhabitants. Their lives, inextricably bound to the turning gears and flowing steam, were a ceaseless ritual, a symphony of breath and purpose that ensured the very heart of the Andromedan factory would beat forever in a dream state of mechanical grace. The crimson sun, a bruised and distant eye, bled across the endless scroll of the desert, painting the dunes in hues of rusty iron and burnt ochre. A caravan of alien humans, like slow-burning embers in the vast, cooling ash, traversed this desolate expanse. Their heads, instead of flesh, were intricate lanterns, each vessel a beacon of living script, some flickering with frantic energy, others with a serene, steady glow, all filled with pages of burning alphabets. They carried giant scrolls, bound in iron, their very weight a testament to the knowledge they bore, clanking a solemn rhythm against the wind. The sand underfoot was not merely sand. It was a vast, open book, its dunes carved with fossilized words, some still whispering in the parched air, faint echoes of forgotten tongues. At the head, Archivist Niren, a towering silhouette draped in robes of layered parchment, moved with the deliberate grace of a living library. His lantern head pulsed with shifting, ancient alphabets, a constant, silent explosion of extinct prayers. The iron-bound scroll slung across his back dwarfed him, its surface etched with glyphs only he could fully translate, his being inextricably linked to its immense weight of history. Beside him, Scribe Kethra, childlike and ethereal, drifted. Her skull, a pale blue lantern, cast a gentle luminescence that seemed to absorb the harsh edges of the desert. From her fingertips, endless ribbons of phantom ink unfurled, weaving fleeting letters in the air, only to dissolve into the emptiness, a constant, beautiful act of ephemeral documentation. As the caravan pressed deeper into the valley of silent glyphs, the fossilized whispers grew more insistent, a chorus of barely audible pleas rising from the earth. The whisperer of fossils, a hooded and silent figure, felt the magnetic pull of these ancient voices. Their own skull, a dim, crumbling lantern, shed glowing fragments of text like dying embers, each flake a piece of decaying knowledge. The whisperer knelt, a hand pressed to the carven sand, and from the depths of the earth, a guttural, long-dead language began to coalesce, resonating through their being, a fragile bridge between the living and the long-gone. Marrow Reader Solon, stooped and weathered, walked with a staff crafted from vertebrae, each bone etched with faded alphabets. His lantern head, a perpetually dim glow, cycled through forgotten languages with every deliberate step, a silent litany of linguistic ghosts. He would pause, tapping his staff against a particularly gnarled fossil word, as if seeking to extract the very marrow of its meaning. The chorus of marginalia, a scattered group of smaller beings, their heads flickering like torn, fluttering pages, chattered in fragmented whispers. Memory, like sand sifted, one would murmur, while another chipped in. Truth, in the dust, always. They were the footnotes to the grand narrative, the peripheral voices that held fragments of universal wisdom. At the heart of the procession walked the keeper of the hollow sun, a figure veiled and utterly silent. The sacred relic, a mechanical orb with an empty core, was chained to their chest, a weight both physical and spiritual. The keeper's own lantern light reflected only in its polished surface, dim yet unwavering, a silent testament to the orb's purpose, to preserve forgotten tongues in infinite silence. No sound ever escaped the keeper, only the quiet hum of the orb and the faint, mirroring glow in their skull. Trailing behind, an enigma, was the inkless pilgrim. He alone bore no glowing lantern, only a cracked skull filled with darkness, a void amidst the blazing intellects. The caravan believed he was the last vessel of a language yet to be spoken, a paradox of emptiness holding the promise of ultimate linguistic creation. He walked as if adrift, occasionally tracing patterns in the sand with a gaunt finger, patterns that held no discernible meaning to the others, yet seemed pregnant with unspoken intent. The caravan arrived at the precipice of echoes, a vast, circular depression in the desert floor, where the fossil words were not merely carved but etched into colossal, petrified rock formations that spiraled downwards into an inky abyss. Here, the whispers were deafening in their multitude, a cacophony of lost dialects vying for attention, an overwhelming symphony of silence. Even Niren's ancient scrolls seemed to tremble, his lantern head flickering with alarm. Kethra's ink ribbons struggled, forming twisted, indecipherable glyphs before vanishing, unable to capture the sheer volume of forgotten history. The whisperer of fossils collapsed to their knees, overwhelmed by the clamor. Glowing fragments streamed from their head like tears of light, each fragment a fading word. Too many, too deep. They rasped, their voice barely a whisper against the roaring silence of the past. Solon, his staff vibrating, pointed to the deepest part of the descent. A root language, he intoned, his dim lantern cycling through utterly alien symbols, the source of all beginnings or endings. It became clear that this was a test, a moment of profound significance for their sacred task. The sheer density of the linguistic ghosts threatened to overwhelm their collective ability to preserve. Niren, with a groan that seemed to echo through eons, unlatched his massive scroll, the iron clasps groaning. He began to chant from it, his voice a mighty anchor against the storm of whispers. But even his ancient prayers seemed insufficient to capture the primordial essence emanating from the abyss. Then, the inkless pilgrim, drawn by an invisible current, stepped forward, his dark skull absorbing the ambient glow. He stood at the very edge of the precipice, utterly still, a perfect void. The chaos of the whispering words seemed to concentrate around him, drawn to his silence. The chorus of marginalia, agitated, sang fragmented warnings. The unspoken devours all, and silence is a hungry mouth. The keeper of the hollow sun, sensing the critical juncture, extended the orb. Its core, a perfect, polished emptiness, began to hum with a low, resonant frequency. As the inkless pilgrim stood, his darkness a gravitational well for all the unspoken, unremembered things, the hollow sun's surface began to ripple. It reflected not the desert, not the glowing heads of the caravan, but the very essence of the profound, ancient silence emanating from the abyss, and subtly, astonishingly, the darkness within the pilgrim's skull that a new language began to form within the orb's core, not as a sound, but as an intricately shifting pattern of light and shadow, a silent geometry. It was the language of the source, of pure potential, a tongue so old it predated speech, yet so new it had never been uttered. It was the echo of the abyss, translated through the void of the pilgrim, and then preserved, not in sound or script, but in the infinite, reflective silence of the hollow sun. The orb glowed with an internal, contained brilliance, mirroring the nascent language, holding it eternally yet mutely. The overwhelming whispers from the precipice subsided, absorbed, understood in the orb's silent embrace. A profound, almost reverent stillness descended upon the caravan. Kethra, awestruck, let ribbons of ink flow unbidden, forming perfect, crystalline glyphs that lingered for a moment, mirroring the patterns in the hollow sun, before finally vanishing. The keeper of the hollow sun, still silent, resecured the orb, its core now holding an unspeakable treasure. The inkless pilgrim remained an enigma, his empty skull now a silent partner to the orb's newly acquired, silent language. The caravan, having witnessed a miracle of preservation, a bridge between the oldest and the newest forms of meaning, reformed its ranks. The journey through the hollow suns was eternal, their task unending. As the crimson sun finally dipped below the horizon, plunging the wasteland into a starlit darkness, the glowing heads of the librarians moved onward, each a flickering page in the vast, silent book of existence, ever carrying the burning alphabets and the infinite, unspoken truths of their world. The translucent sky of Ornis shimmered with an unsettling iridescence, a testament to the planet's failing health. Beneath it, the colossal mechanical lungs, usually a rhythmic marvel, now wheezed, exhaling erratic puffs of silver mist that drifted across the horizon like ghostly laments. The marble dunes, once vibrant with a steady, deep pulse, flickered erratically, their internal glow dimming with each faltering beat of Ornis' core. The cosmic drumbeats, the planet's natural symphony, had grown discordant, a mournful dirge. This was the arena of the harmonists, alien physicians whose very existence was entwined with the health of living worlds. Today, they faced their greatest challenge. Ornis, the living world, was dying, ravaged by the fracture swarm, crystalline parasites that gnawed at its very resonance, destabilizing its fundamental energy. The only hope lay in the symbiotic resonance, a ritual so profound, so utterly consuming. It was whispered only in hushed, reverent tones, and deemed forbidden for its perilous cost. At the heart of the ritual stood Soren, the lead harmonist, his eight-limbed form radiating a calm, almost ethereal resolve beneath his crystalline sheathing. In each of his primary hands, a rod of vibrant light hummed, a conduit for the pure harmonic frequencies he would soon channel. His robes, intricately stitched with rhythmic glyphs, seemed to absorb the ambient light, making his presence a beacon against the deepening gloom. He was courageous, perhaps even reckless, to attempt the symbiotic resonance, but he was also the only one capable. He understood the sacrifice. Around him, a trio of apprentices prepared. Morel, the four-eyed analyst, her gaze flitting between complex holographic readouts and Soren's stoic form, worked feverishly at the counter-frequency array. Her loyalty to Soren was absolute, yet a visible tremor ran through her slender frame, betraying her profound caution and the raw emotion she struggled to contain. She knew the implications of this path, the potential cost. To Soren's flanks stood Torvin and Alira, the defenders. Torvin, strong and steady, anchored himself to the marble sands, his broad shoulders squared, ready to summon harmonic shields that would protect the delicate ritual. His movements were deliberate, a testament to his unshakable focus. Beside him, Alira moved with an agile determination, her every motion fluid and precise. She was Torvin's partner in sustaining the shields, fierce and unwavering in her duty, though a flicker of vulnerability briefly crossed her features as her eyes met Soren's. They were a formidable pair, their combined strength the only bulwark against the inevitable. Soren raised his vibrating rods, the light within them intensifying, casting shifting patterns across the marble dunes. He began to chant, a series of deep, resonant tones that wove into the cosmic drumbeats, slowly bringing them back into a fragile, unified rhythm. The dunes responded, their internal glow brightening, matching the deep thrumming emanating from Soren. This was the initial merging, the preparation of Ornis' outer layers for the intrusion. Morel, prepare the primary influx channels. Soren's voice resonated, calm and unwavering. Morel, her four eyes blinking rapidly, acknowledged with a sharp nod. Her fingers danced across the array, feeding precise calculations into the planet's energy grid. Channels open, Soren. The core is turbulent. It expects me, Soren replied, his gaze fixed on the shimmering, translucent sky. Torvin, Alira, be ready. The swarm will feel the shift. As Soren closed his eyes, his 8 limbs began to move in a synchronized, ancient dance. The light rods pulsed with his heartbeat, each beat a cosmic drum echoing through the ground. His crystalline sheathing began to faintly glow, reflecting the burgeoning energy. He was no longer just Soren. He was a bridge, a conduit, preparing to offer himself to the planet. This symbiotic resonance was not merely a healing. It was a profound act of communion, a complete dissolving of self into the planetary consciousness. It promised to reset Ornis' core frequency, but it required Soren to merge completely, his very essence becoming part of the planet's pulse. The forbidden aspect lay in the unknown. Would he ever truly return? As Soren's chant reached a crescendo, the marble dunes pulsed with an almost blinding intensity. A great tremor shook the ground, not one of destruction, but of reawakening. The immense mechanical lungs above stretched to their full extent, then contracted, exhaling a vast, swirling cloud of silver mist that enveloped the landscape, blurring the edges of reality. Then they came, from the shifting mists, like shards of corrupted starlight. The fracture swarm materialized. Thousands of crystalline parasites, jagged and razor-sharp, descended upon the ritual site. They moved with a chaotic, malicious intent, their sole purpose to destabilize, to shatter the burgeoning harmony. The air crackled with their dissonant energy, threatening to tear the delicate resonance apart. Shields, Torvin bellowed, his voice a deep rumble that cut through the alien din. He slammed his fists onto the marble, and a shimmering, emerald-green harmonic barrier erupted, encircling Soren and Morel. The swarm crashed against it, each impact a jarring crackle of corrupted energy. Elira, agile and swift, moved like a dancer, supplementing Torvin's defenses. Her shields, of vibrant azure, flickered and darted, deflecting smaller, faster fragments of the swarm that tried to bypass Torvin's primary barrier. Her focus was absolute, her determination fierce, but the sheer number of the swarm was overwhelming. "They're finding the fissures," Morel cried, her four eyes wide with alarm, rapidly adjusting frequencies on her array. "Their corrupting resonance is amplifying." She worked with frantic precision, generating counter-frequencies, but it was like bailing water from a sinking ship. Soren, now fully immersed, was oblivious to the external battle. His consciousness had plunged into the heart of Ornis, a realm of pure energy and ancient consciousness. He felt the planet's vast, aching pain, its core pulse erratic and weak, besieged by the parasitic corruption. He was no longer a being of crystalline sheathing and 8 limbs. He was a wave of pure harmonic light, flowing through Ornis' veins, seeking to re-establish the rhythm. The fracture swarm's attacks intensified. Torvin's emerald shield began to waver, cracks appearing in its luminous surface. Elira, battered and bruised, but never faltering, poured every ounce of her will into her azure deflections. "We cannot hold much longer," she cried, her voice strained. Morel, prepared to amplify Soren's outgoing signal. "He's reaching the core," Torvin ordered, his own voice ragged. Morel, her face streaked with sweat, completed a complex sequence on her array, her 4 eyes burning with desperate hope. She triggered the amplifier, pushing a torrent of clean, resonant energy into the links Soren had forged. Deep within Ornis, Soren felt the surge. It was a lifeline, a surge of pure, uncorrupted power from his apprentices. He channeled it, focusing his entire being, his borrowed consciousness merging with Ornis' will. He found the source of the planetary discord, a vast, swirling vortex of fracture swarm energy at the core. With a monumental surge of will, Soren initiated the true symbiotic resonance. His consciousness, now one with Ornis, released a pulse, not a simple wave, but a fundamental frequency, the original heartbeat of the living world, amplified 1,000-fold. The marble dunes vibrated with an unbearable intensity. The mechanical lungs above roared, exhaling a colossal cloud of silver mist that pulsed with the light of the reawakened core. This was Ornis fighting back, channeled through Soren. The fracture swarm shrieked, a high-pitched, agonizing sound that resonated across the entire planet. The pure, unadulterated resonance was anathema to them. They were built on discord, on instability, and this fundamental harmony tore them apart. Like glass shattering in a cosmic gale, the crystalline parasites exploded into dust, their corrupted starlight dissolving into nothingness. The translucent sky cleared, shimmering with a healthy, vibrant glow. The mechanical lungs settled into a deep, steady rhythm, their silver mist now soft and life-giving. The marble dunes pulsed with a strong, deep beat, their internal light restored. The threat was gone. Ornis was healed. But where was Soren? The harmonic shields flickered and died, leaving Torvin and Illyra exhausted but victorious. Morel rushed to the center of the ritual site, her four eyes searching frantically. There, where Soren had stood, was nothing. No crystalline sheathing, no light rods, no 8 limbs. Only a single, luminescent ripple remained on the surface of the marble dune, a deep, resonating pulse that matched Ornis' newfound beat. It was Soren's sacrifice, his ultimate merging. He had not merely healed the planet, he had become part of it. His consciousness, his essence, was now woven into the very fabric of Ornis, ensuring its pulse would beat strong and true for eons. Morel knelt, her four eyes welling with tears, a mix of profound grief and awe. Torvin and Illyra stood beside her, their shoulders touching, united in their solemn understanding. The symbiotic resonance was forbidden not because it failed, but because its success demanded everything. Soren, the courageous lead harmonist, had given his all. He was now the marble pulse, the enduring heartbeat of the living world, a silent guardian woven into the very soul of Ornis, forever resonating with its cosmic song.